What is right? If I was gonna do something right, if to be doing the right thing.
It's like if there was a plant right there and you broke that, that's not doing something right.
Okay. Would I tell someone that I broke it?
Yes.
Okay. Mackenzie?
If you was like turn it up, how do you make a knot? It's right there, and if you break something like a paper, like a word, you just have to tell the teacher or the butler or the friend, then we can make another.
Okay, one more with Reagan.
Even if somebody is not looking, you still have to do the right thing. So if let's say Mrs. Argus is not looking at you and you accidentally broke that big block of 100, if you're too scared to tell her the truth, you just have to tell her the truth, even if you're gonna get in trouble. It doesn't matter if you get in trouble or not. You just still have to do the right thing.
That's good. Very nice. I want everybody take a deep breath. Breathe out. Now, everybody say integrity.
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 I did it.
Really quickly, just connect with a neighbor on what you know about integrity.
You know about integrity, Jaden.
I know that integrity is when someone's not looking, you still have to do the right thing. If like Mrs. Jarvis is in the room
Thank you for coming back so quick. What did you discuss, Brianna?
I said, like, if Maria broke your camera, you still have to tell her, still have to tell the truth. Like, if you get in trouble, you still have to tell the truth. If you don't, you would get in more trouble. Like, if you're not looking, if she broke it, she still has to tell you, even if you're scared.
So, doing the right thing when no one else is looking. Miles, really quickly, and then we'll do it, Maya, and we'll go ahead, Miles.
Integrity means doing the right thing when no one's looking.
Okay. Real quick, Maya, and then Lucas. Go ahead, Maya.
I was talking about if Mr. Cone was a little baby kid and I pushed him down and I just walked away, he should use a bug statement because that would not be really kind and I was bigger than him.
Okay. The reason why we were kind of talking about integrity, guys, who remembers our last story about community? You guys remember community?
Yeah.
Well, Grayson mentioned integrity, and it got me thinking. I said, man, integrity. Integrity is a very important thing for a community. So, I found this book, and any of you guys ever heard of this book? The Summer My Father Was 10? Miss Hoffman, you've heard of it? Maria, you've heard of it? Good. It's a great book. For those of you that haven't read it yet, it's a good book, and for those of you that have read it, it's even better to read a second and third time. So we're going to kind of read this book, but as we're reading this book, I want you guys to think about integrity. The summer my father was 10. Every year my father and I plant a garden Tomatoes, peppers, onions, marigolds, zinnias grow in neat, straight rows. We pull the weeds that pop up. We water, mulch, and tend it all through the summer, cutting the flowers to make bouquets for the kitchen table or to give Miss Mrzowski, our neighbor, who broke her hip last winter and has to walk with a cane. And every spring my father tells me about Mr. Bella Vista and the summer my father was 10. Mr. Bella Vista lived alone in the third-floor apartment above my father and grandmother. Plants grew all winter on his windowsill, and in the spring he trudged the rake, garden fork, and trowel to the vacant lot next door to plant a garden. Some years he had to drag away old tires, broken bottles, and other trash before he could even start. So what does that tell you about Mr. Bella Vista? Go ahead, Amaya.
He's like following them what they are doing, and that ain't very kind to do that because I had a problem with that with Tyson and with Sai, and they didn't like that, so I stopped. If I was him, I should stop.
I think you're talking about when he had to pick up the trash and stuff. Oh, I see. Anybody else? What do you guys think about Mr. Bella Vista? Go ahead, Reagan.
I think he's being a copycat.
Oh, okay. Once his garden was planted, though, you could find him there early every morning, weeding, watering, and watching over his plants. And in the evening, he would go and sit on an old wooden folding chair and listen to the opera on his radio. My father didn't know much about the old man, only that he always wore flannel shirts buttoned up to his neck, winter or summer. He didn't talk much to other people who lived in the building, and when he did talk, his accent made his words sound strange. My father and his friends made fun of him. Sometimes they called him Old Mr. Spaghetti Man. Then, one August afternoon, when my father was 10, he and his friends were playing baseball near Mr. Bella Vista's garden. My father's friend Nicky hit a ball over my father's head, and it landed in the middle of the garden. My father ran to get it and found under it a big, leafy tomato plant. The tomatoes were round and red and ripe and just the size of a baseball. And my father thought, boy, I'd like to see Nicky's face if I threw this tomato instead of the ball, and he hit it and it splattered all over him. What do you guys think is going to happen? Go ahead, Lucas.
He's gonna do it.
He's going to grab one of those tomatoes? You think that's a good idea?
No, I don't. But it's funny.
Let's find out. And so, that's what he did. And Nicky did hit it and got splattered, just like my father thought he would. My father laughed and laughed, and Nicky chased him back into the garden and grabbed a tomato off the vine and threw it at my father. Then my father threw another one at Nicky, and then Joe threw one at Kevin. Before long, they were all throwing tomatoes and peppers at each other and batting them against the side of the building. The hollow peppers thumping against the bricks and showering thin white seeds and pulp on the wall and ground. The tomatoes hitting with a splat and bursting into messy globs. They even pulled up onions and uprooted the flowers, swinging them around and all around over their heads before letting them fly. Now, if I was Mr. Bella Vista, and he hasn't seen this yet, but what's Mr. Bella Vista gonna say when he sees this, Mackenzie? Really angry.
And if he was not there, and Dad's not doing the right thing. So get a ball, y'all do the right thing when no one is watching.
Okay. What about you, Cry?
He's gonna be mad because what if they use all his plants?
Ooh, Kalea?
He's gonna say what happened to my garden.
He's gonna say what happened to my garden, Masai?
He's gonna say, you boys, you're gonna clean it up.
Okay. All right, here we go, guys. Uh-oh. I don't want to show the picture yet, but I will. Uh-oh. They were shouting and laughing so much that they never heard Mr. Bella Vista coming. But when Nicky stopped laughing and suddenly stood still, eyes wide and staring, my father turned and saw his neighbor. He was shaking his head and saying something in Italian. He looked at the walls, splattered with tomatoes and peppers, and at my father and his friends, and he said just one word, "Why?" Man, he's probably... Go ahead, Reagan.
I think he's gonna call those the boys spaghetti man. Spaghetti.
Alright, here we go. My father looked at the garden, trampled and ruined, and it was only then that he realized what they had done.
Uh-oh.
He looked back at Mr. Bella Vista, but the old man had gone to his plants and was tenderly picking up the broken pieces and setting them in a pile at his feet. My father's friends went all away, leaving my father and Mr. Bella Vista alone in the lot. My father wanted to go and tell his neighbor he was sorry, but his feet were like heavy stones holding him there. He watched for a few more minutes and then dragged himself home. What would you guys have done in that situation? B, what would you have done?
I would done if I were those two boys, the band, I wish the guy, those boys were throwing tomatoes and peppers. They were not doing the right thing because the boys were not doing he just picked them up, and the boys, when they were making that mess, they should have picked them up in the first place.
Okay, so you wouldn't have done it at all.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Messiah. What would you have done?
If I was the man, I will say, you.
No, if you were his father, what would you have done?
I would have never did it.
You would have never did it.
If I was the old man, I would say, you boys,
Okay.
you're gonna pay.
Amaya?
I would say, it's okay if you make a mess. If you shouldn't tell me because I would clean it up for you, and I would be a good dad and a good mother.
Okay. The next morning, the mess had been cleared away. The ground raked smooth. There was no way to know that a garden had ever been there, but my father knew. My father's friends seemed to forget all about what they had done, but my father couldn't forget. Every time he saw Mr. Bella Vista, he remembered and wanted to tell him he was sorry, but he just couldn't make the words come out. Why does his father feel this way? Reagan?
Because he's scared to tell him the truth.
Scared? Go ahead. Maya, were you going to say something?
He is gonna be scared to tell him, and he is gonna be mad,
Okay.
angry.
Does anyone think he feels a little bit sad about what he did?
Yes.
Kalea?
I think he is afraid to tell him sorry. He think he might say something mean, but I think he's gonna say it's okay.
Okay.
Say sorry.
Okay, one more with Mackenzie.
I think he just so that maybe mommy will do like game. I think he will be surprised and he will be happy if his dad tells the truth.
Okay. Okay. Fall and winter came. My father went to school, played with friends, and almost forgot about what happened. But when April came again, he remembered. He watched for signs of his neighbor getting ready but nothing happened. May came. The sun was warmer, the days brighter, but still, Mr. Bella Vista made no move to plant. Finally, one day, when my father was going up the stairs on his way home from school, he met his neighbor coming down. "Mr. Bella Vista," my father began, "are you going to plant a garden this year?" Mr. Bella Vista's eyes looked straight into my father's. "So you can destroy it again?" he said. "No," my father stammered. I wouldn't do that. I mean, I'm sorry about last year, and I thought maybe I could help. So, now he's trying to help. What? With him trying to help, what does this have to do with our discussion about integrity earlier? Go ahead, Amaya.
Um, um, she's gonna keep on being nice to their neighbors, his neighbor,
Why?
because he was saying sorry, and that means they can help each other and be a
So it's kind of like his way of saying sorry.
Okay. Anybody else? Go ahead, Tajane.
I think after he do it, he's gonna grab something else and then he's gonna start doing something and then when it come out, he's gonna keep on tricking on him because very, very soon he's gonna make them plant more and every time they mess it up, they have to plant again.
So you think he might did what he did last summer? Okay, Kalea?
I think his neighbor might go in the house, and then him and who has the friend is they want to help, and his friend will say yes and no. And then the next day, the neighbor will come outside.
Okay. Okay, I like all you guys had great responses. Mr. Bellavista didn't say anything at first. He studied my father for a few minutes, then rubbed his jaw with the back of his hand. Tomorrow, he said at last, tomorrow we'll make a garden. So it looks like they're going to work together. The next day was Saturday. My father and the old man worked all day together. When they finished, they had a patch of ground carefully raked and planted with tomato and pepper plants, teeny tiny onions, and seeds for marigolds and zinnias. Now, when my father looked at the garden, he didn't get such a hard knot in his stomach. Why was he getting a hard knot in his stomach before? What do you think, Lucas?
I think because he might feel embarrassed.
Embarrassed. Yeah.
It would, his stomach might have been a little out of breath.
Yeah. So because of the way he was feeling, his stomach was upset because he felt like guilty and embarrassed, right? Okay. Okay. B, what were you gonna say?
I don't like his tummy. Well, he might be. His tummy hurts or like something.
Okay. Okay. Addie, did you have your hand up?
Yeah. I will. Because like once I sort of like cried and like. My mommy told me to stop, but I sort of can't because my breath is like all like hurting and stuff. It's because I just sort of have to let it out, but I can't.
Okay, okay. So when you have emotions or feelings, it kind of affects you physically too. Okay, okay. Go ahead, last one.
Sometimes when something like if I went to the fair, sometimes if something was really funny and I was giggling and I couldn't stop laughing.
Okay, so that was kind of a good thing. Summer came, and every morning my father and Mr. Bellavista checked their plants. My father carried water from his apartment during dry spells and learned to tell what was a weed and what wasn't. When the flowers bloomed, the old man gave my father bouquets to take to my grandmother. And when the tomatoes were red and ripe and a little bigger than baseballs, and the peppers and the onions were ready, my father helped Mr. Bellavista make spaghetti sauce. Then they all ate dinner together in Mr. Bellavista's apartment and listened to opera on the radio. Man, so it seems like they're having like a good time now. Every year after that, my father helped his neighbor in the garden until the spring when my father was 16 and Mr. Bellavista got sick and went to live in a nursing home. Then my father planted the garden himself, and when the flowers bloomed, my father carried bouquets on the bus to his old friend. And when the tomatoes and peppers and onions were ready, He made spaghetti sauce and put some in the freezer and told Mr. Bellavista they would have spaghetti dinner when he came home. But Mr. Bellavista never came home. What do you guys think happened? Go ahead, Mackenzie.
He was sick.
Yeah.
But he was so old.
Mm.
He died.
Mm.
And he went up to Jesus.
Oh, good. So, my question now is, what if his father didn't go and help Mr. Bellavista? How do you think he would have felt if he never went and helped? And go ahead, Reagan.
That he would feel upset.
He would feel upset. What's one reason why you think he would feel upset?
Because I know that he didn't help him in the beginning, in the middle part. But if he didn't help in the end, then it would just be meanness on the outside.
Hmm.
And kindness on the inside.
Okay. Okay. Tajane?
When he went to the first place, when he didn't talk to no one, and then one of the guys called him spaghetti. He didn't like to talk because if he talked, they would make fun of him.
Okay. Okay. B?
Like he'll feel sad inside.
Yeah, sad. That knot. Do you think that knot in his stomach would feel worse? Yeah. And now every year my father and I plant a garden. Tomatoes, peppers, onions, marigolds, and zinnias in neat straight rows. And every year I hear the story of the summer when my father was 10. So, just one more thing I wanted to ask you guys. In that story, him and his friends, they ruined the garden. He felt bad. The next year, he wanted to help out, so he helped Mr. Bellavista because he felt bad. That's integrity. Why is it important to have integrity? Why is it important to have integrity? Go ahead, Grayson.
To do the right thing.
It's important to do the right thing. Good. Reagan, what were you going to say?
So most of the time you can do integrity. If you do something bad, like change it into good.
Okay.
If you broke like a vial glass, you can make another vial glass.
Okay. Addie?
Well, like I don't like this like a long time ago.
Abby, think about the question. Why is it important to do the right thing? That's what we're answering. Why is that important?
It's because if you don't do the right thing first, then it will get bad.
Okay. Okay. So you guys, go. B, we'll close with you. B, go ahead.
Like integrity. Why it's important? It's important. It means integrity to tell the truth.
So
And
truth.
kids, they didn't tell the truth.
Okay. Well, integrity is important for a number of different reasons, and it's just something I wanted you guys to all be thinking about. Last time we were thinking about community, and now we're kind of thinking about how integrity fits in the community. But you guys did great today, and just remember, integrity. That's the lesson for today. All right, guys? All righty.